a Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone and welcome to another of our Runner Stories podcasts. Today I'm joined by Tapantosh, originally from Bangladesh. He now lives in Calgary in Canada and he is quite the prolific runner. So he didn't get started until he was 50. His first marathon was in Vancouver. 25 years later, he is still pounding out the miles and has ticked off a very significant selection of events. He is a little bit of a roll call. One ultramarathon, Comrades, which is a beast of a race, 90 kilometers, 59 full marathons, including Antarctica, Mount Everest, and the Big Five, and we'll talk about a couple of those in a bit. 2 half marathons. He finished a marathon on all 7 continents. He's done 30 of the World Marathon Majors. He's done each of them 4 times, done Boston 7 times, New York 6, London 5. He's got the 4 of the 6-star medals from finishing the majors. He's done all 6 majors in the same year twice, 2023 and 24, and he's going to do the same in 25. He's also developed his own training technique called STAR, which is state of the art, and he puts down his ongoing success to this approach. And again, we'll cover that in a second. So, Tapantosh, welcome. What made you get into running in the first place? And then tell us about that first marathon.
So I got into running in 2000 when I was 50 years old, and I was looking for a challenge, and I had 2 colleagues. The person that I reported to, technically, he was a marathon runner. And there was another colleague. He was an employee of NASA, but then transferred to Exxon. And both of them were running marathons. And after lunch, when they ran in Houston, hot and humid weather, I saw a significant change in their appearance. Like they had a radiant glow in their skin. And they were also stress-free, and I was going through significant stress at the time because the pressure to perform was immense. I ended up running for reducing stress, not marathon distance, 3 to 4 kilometers at most. So I followed that program to the letter, and it was so inspiring and motivating to me to feel how one would feel running the long run, which was increasing by 10% or thereabout every Sunday. That was my incentive. How would I feel? Would I die or would I drop dead or, But the training went so well. So 32 or 32 kilometers, I did not miss a single training. I did not get injured because when you start running at old age, you are not running for time. That thing did not kick in yet. So I finished the marathon, but guess what? It was the Vancouver marathon I chose. Up to 32 kilometers, I was fine because that was within my training. I stopped there, but beyond 32, sun was getting hotter and my muscles were in a regime or in a zone. They were never there. And people who did not train as much as I did, they were falling left and right. And my brain was shaking, but I was able to finish 4 hours, 33 minutes.
So what came next after Vancouver and what impact did running have on your life?
As happens with all runners, within few days, brain forgets all the pain, all the accolades. And then what it did, after I continued running, my productivity at work improved significantly. I was born with a good brain, and I had some significant issues growing up, financial, malnutrition, and all those things. So my brain used to automatically shut off after certain amount of thinking. But when I was in Houston, recreational running, and then with a structural running of marathon, that inhibition or whatever was going on in the brain, I'm a PhD in chemical engineering and a researcher all my life. So, but I am not a trained physician, so I don't know what happened, but my brain opened up. If I go to a presentation of a project not related to me, I come to my office with an invention. Invention meaning something nobody has thought of. It's not an improvement, it is nobody has thought of. So I would write it up, then I will patent it so that my company, it has to be useful to the company in their line of business. So I was started inventing left and right. That got me a publicity and recognition within the company. And then I also got the Best Paper Award published based on my work in Houston. And then I was getting significant innovation award. Exxon was coming to me to help them out. Because of my running, that made me a better problem solver and a prolific inventor. So within the company, there was nobody at that time that had so much creativity and problem solving skills.
Some of the best memories I've got from my running travels are from some of the more unusual events around the world. Talk us through some of yours, because you've clearly done some very interesting ones over time.
One of them is Antarctica, and that was part of the 7-continent marathon program, and I got the medal for finishing at least one marathon in each of the 7 continents. Inca Trail Marathon. Another adventure that was to be my South America in Peru. I finished up 41 kilometer of that, or 25 miles or something, and that they had to stop us because there was a incline to be climbed that is very, very steep, and we could not do that. It was getting dark. Anyway, so I did Rio de Janeiro in place of that. So then I did the Big Five, which is named after the 5 wildlife in an active safari park in South Africa. And all the wildlife were free to come and attack us. And at certain junctions, rangers were standing with a rifle in their hand, but they are not everywhere. So if the animals wanted to harm us, they could easily jump on us. But luckily, animals did not do any harm. So I finished that one.
That Big 5 Safari Marathon is definitely on my wish list. You've done so many of the world marathon majors. How did that whole journey start?
My daughter got accepted in a university in New Haven, Connecticut. It's called Yale University. So we went through New York to drop her there. And then we wanted to see her again because I am in Calgary. So we are looking for an excuse. So New York had a marathon in 2004. So I ran that marathon and she was there. She came, we went to New Haven to pick her up, and she was there as a receiving because she. So after the marathon, we picked her up, we saw her, and then we drove back to New Haven. And that marathon, that was my first of the 6 majors.
So New York was your first major, but then you said it was a while before you did another, and you focused on other destinations. What sort of places did you end up traveling
From 2004 to 2011, I was just interested in destination marathons. Like I went to Barcelona Marathon, I went to Athens Classic, the marathon that starts from marathon and finish in the Penaki Taiko Stadium, Marble Stadium. That was some experience. And that marathon, I ran with fever. There are 3 or 4 marathons I was not 100%. But I found if you starting is the important thing. That marathon, I started with the intent of just going to the start line. When I woke up, because I had fevers, I had in Santorini Island for 3 nights before, and I was shaking. My wife had to give me Tylenol medication to stop me. So on the day of the marathon, I was so weak, I could not even walk to the bus to pick me up. Guess what? 4:05. That's still one of my fastest marathon. And my fever, everything went away. Anyway, so I did all of them. Then I ran St. George Marathon. That's in Utah. It's a hilly marathon, mostly downhill. And I trained for that. One thing we learned from marathon training program that you should do a half marathon before a full to get the most benefit of your training. And that worked out nicely for me. And the training I did for that marathon, because I also training, I included interval and tempo training for St. George Marathon because I wanted to do well enough to qualify for Boston. Also, that was not my main goal. So when I ran St. George, 3:47, that is, and I was at that time 59. I was going to be 60 on marathon day in Boston. So my qualification time at that time was 4 hours. Boston bug kicked in. In the meantime, I was going all over the world. I went to Sydney, which I'm going to run again in Sydney this year. So all destinations, I was using the marathon as my vacation. I went back to Houston to run the marathon there. I had a very good time, although I did not qualify.
So 2019 was the real start of your majors experience, wasn't it?
In 2019, that was my best year. I ran 5 or 6 marathons, including Berlin. Oh, before Berlin, I ran a marathon here in Canada. It's a downhill. It's the debut marathon, only one ran, 4:01. That is my second fastest time. And that qualified for me for all the majors in USA, including New York. New York is the tougher to qualify than even Boston. But then within a month of doing that, I ran Berlin at 4:05. And then I went to Chicago, 4:09. Then I went to New York. I did not do well, but I did relatively well. I forgot the time there.
So tell us a little bit more about this state-of-the-art training method that you've developed.
What is that? The state-of-the-art is a marathon running technique that allowed me with every person is different, with my health issues. By that time, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which I controlled, and because I had to also look after my body. I don't want to get injured. And I also learned how to get the signals from my body, from my knee or whatever. If something was bothering me beyond what I think is getting to be troublesome, I stop. Because, as I said, it also comes from age. What is your goal? If you run longer, over many years, it's better for me than running, qualify for Boston and all those things and then get injured.
Just going back to the majors again, just give us a quick summary of those again, some of your times and talk us through some of the memories that you've got from those events.
I ran 30 of them. I ran 7 Bostons, 6 New York, and 5 London, and 4 of each of the rest. So, and that means I got 4 6-star medals, and all my 6-star medals, for one reason or other, ends up in Tokyo, because Tokyo being farthest from where I am. So the most memorable for me was 2021, almost during COVID time, New York. I ran 4:08, which is my New York qualification time at that time was 4:10. That means I qualified for New York. My training to start prepared me so much, as well as the mantra I was using. Even in Boston on October 11th, I said every second counts. There was a official photographer. He was sitting there in between 2 gates that we are going to go through. So I selected the gate to the right. As I was passing by him, he said, running like a butterfly. That's the experience in New York. And Tokyo, I don't have any good experience to tell you, because for some reason, although it is a flat course, because of the back and forth, you do 4 of them. So you go one way and then you come the same way. In Boston this year, both of them, I was feeling so good. In Boston, I was showing 7 fingers to indicate to people, without telling them, that that was my 7th Boston. And they understood. Because in Boston, people are looking for, people meaning spectators, to cheer you for anything. And they understood. And they are cheering. In London, I did the same thing, but they did not quite get it. What is 5? 5 means high five or what? So there again, I was so energized, even though I was tired, that I was finishing. That would be 3 years in a row I did Boston and London within 6 days of each other.
So you're running the London Marathon in 2026 for the BackCare Charity in the UK. Why did you choose BackCare?
BackCare was also of importance to me because I had some exposure to having lower back issues when I was working for my company, sitting on my desk, because I am an obsessed worker. If I like something, I would forget everything. So after sitting that long on a chair, although the chairs are much better chairs because the company was going agronomic, so I was aware of the back problem that could arise, although I did not have chronic issues. So back care I chose of the others that I had the option of. And the treatment I got from Denise, she treated me better than I was treated in other charities. And it's the first charity I got the impression that they care about the runners. And I don't have the colleagues to go back to. So I donate from my own pocket. So BackCare is a very good charity if you want to run and then to be recognized for your effort.
I remember from when I did a lot of marathons, I had a couple of years where I did 10 one year, 12 the next. And I remember actually I didn't end up doing a great deal of training because I was just running marathons all the time. What do you do in between races?
That's a great question. So before 2014, when I had this stent placed because of the arterial blockage that was diagnosed, as I told you, I am running more marathons now than before, because before that I was also employed full time. and part of that was running on treadmill. So since I am from Calgary, where temperature can go as high as 35 degrees Celsius to as low as sometimes minus 40, I use treadmill to train for the spring marathons. Initially, I used to run through snow, but I found that is too risky. I fell, and luckily there was no significant injuries. So treadmill, I have one that I have at home now has also declined. So for the Boston Marathon, one thing I should also say, in my training, that STAR plan I said, method, it is also trains for the terrain. So for Boston Marathon, I train for the initial downhill and then relatively flat, then the Newton hills. So I emulate that on my treadmill because it can go down up to 6%. It can also go up in steps to 6%. So, and that training I can also use for New York, because London and New York are both hilly, but the hills are not placed same way. But since you have done, your muscles are trained. Another thing to be said about hill training, it is a balancing training for your muscles. It keeps you injury free, because if you run the same way, you develop muscle strains. So when I run one marathon a year, I build up. Throughout the year, I keep fit because I know the benefit of fitting, because I have to keep control of my, remember that I have type 2 diabetes. That is what I do when I was doing one marathon a day. Now, the benefit of doing 6, 2023, I did 8. 2024, I did 7. This year, I have already done 4. So doing 4 means you have, and since they are spaced, if you are doing the measures within 3 or 4 weeks of each other, and Boston and London only 6 days, only thing you worry about is getting recovered and rested for the next one. So training is minimal between, but now in the summer months, I am now into, but since my body is already have the aerobic base and all those things, all I am doing now is for the next one, which is Sydney, August 31st, listen to your body, and whenever you see a sign of any niggles or anything, cramping or anything, stop it.
Tapantosh, thank you so much for your time. That's been absolutely fascinating. Just give us a quick summary of what running has done for you.
Thanks for also giving me the opportunity. I have a lot of things to share. One of them is that running is good for you, health-wise. Your mental health is also important, because my mental health was that my brain could not think deep enough, and because it has an automatic, because brain wants to protect you, because brain is the CEO, chief executive officer of your body, because our body is like a company. It has everything. So brain wants to protect you. So it made me a better researcher, better productive, and it took care of a lot of my diseases. And I had some knee injuries from my football. Somebody fell on my knee, and that recovered, because knee is made stronger by the muscles around. So with all those stretching and all those things or strengthening we used to do, that make your knees stronger. When I hear people that running toasted their knees, I say running made my knees stronger. So there are lots of things here to share.
Totally agree. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
If you too would like to join Team BackCare, my details are in the podcast description.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.